For 22 years, a steelworker in Youngstown, Ohio, set his watch by the mill whistle, the noon blast, the 3 o'clock shift change, and drove home each night under a sky the furnaces turned orange. Then came Monday, September 19th, 1977. By 10 that morning, the word was on the radio. The Campbell Works was closing by Friday. 5,000 men, his own job among them, gone in a single sentence. He drove home in the daylight for the first time in years, sat his 3 kids down at the kitchen table, and told them the plain truth that he had lost his job, that it was nothing they had done, and that they would be all right because he had said so, and because he did not break his word to his children. He did not raise his voice. He did not reach for a drink. He had a set of codes handed down by a father who had come up in the Depression, and he lived every one of them harder the day his world ended than he ever had before. Most of those codes the world has since chosen to forget. And the one he would have set above all the others is number 1 on this list. He was not unusual. In that generation, in every mill town and factory city in America, there was a man exactly like him, men who were not educated or eloquent, who never read a book on how to be a father, and who lived instead by a hard code handed down from men who had survived a depression and a war. They did not call it a code. They would have laughed at the word. They thought they were just being men, doing what a man did. Those rules built the strongest working class the world had ever seen, and then the world decided it no longer needed them, not the men and not the rules. We shipped the work overseas and threw the codes in the same bin, and told ourselves both were the price of progress. The men we mostly buried. The codes we simply forgot, on purpose, because remembering them would have asked something of us. And a country that asks nothing of its men should not be surprised by what it gets. Number 19, he lived even when he had nothing left to live it with, and it will humble you. Number 13, he chose over money he badly needed every single night. And number 1, the deepest code the Youngstown steelworker ever kept, the one his own son named above the steel and the struggle and everything else when asked what made the man, is the plainest thing on this entire list, and the last thing the world remembers how to do. Stay with him to the end. These were not the manners of gentlemen in fine houses. They were the codes of working men with dirt under their nails. Not polish, but bedrock, not charm, but character poured and set like the steel they made. That is the difference between a man the world admires and a man his own children would follow anywhere. Every code on this list, the Youngstown steelworker lived and kept living after the world took his mill and tried to take his dignity with it. Hit that subscribe button and let us count down the 30 gentleman codes the 1970s working class fathers swore by that the world chose to forget. Number 30, the handshake and the eye. He gripped a man's hand like he meant it and held his eyes the whole time. A lineman in Akron, Ohio, drilled it into his boy in 1972. A limp hand. Do it again. Eyes on the floor, again. A working man had no resume and no connections. What he had was the 4 seconds of a handshake to tell another man he could be trusted. The steelworker in Youngstown could size up a new man on the crew by his grip alone, and he was rarely wrong. Number 29, be early or you're already late. On time was late. He was at the gate before the whistle, boots laced, lunch pail packed, ready to work the moment the line began to move. A foreman in Flint, Michigan, taught his son in 1971 that the man who strolls in on the hour has already stolen a minute he did not earn. The mill ran on the clock, and so did the men raised beside it. To be early was to say your convenience mattered less than the job. Number 28, hat off. The hat came off indoors, off for the anthem, off when a funeral passed on the street, even if he did not know the man in the box. A Navy man turned bus driver in Erie, Pennsylvania, kept the rules so tight his boy's hand moved to his own head on instinct. It cost nothing. It said he knew there were things larger than himself, the dead, the flag, the roof he stood under as a guest. Number 27, sir and ma'am. He said sir and ma'am to the boss and the janitor alike, and raised his kids to say it to every adult who drew breath. A mill hand in Gary, Indiana, would stop his son mid-sentence in 1973 until the word was put back in. It was not servility. A working man knew he was nobody's better and nobody's lesser, and the two small words held that whole truth. Respect ran in every direction, or it was not respect at all. Number 26, never raise your hand in anger. He could break a chain with his bare hands and never once used them on anyone smaller. A coal miner in Logan County, West Virginia, taught his son in 1974 that a man's strength was given to protect, and a man who turned it on a woman or a child had thrown his own manhood in the dirt. Discipline was one thing, and it was firm. Rage was another, and a real man kept it chained. Number 25, a day's work for a day's pay. He took the filthy job, the hot job, the one nobody wanted, and did it without complaint because it was honest and it paid. A hod carrier in Scranton, Pennsylvania, told his boy in 1972 that there was no shame in any labor a man was paid fairly to do, only in doing it poorly. The steelworker worked the open hearth, the worst heat in the mill, for years, and came home scorched and satisfied. Dirty hands were nothing to hide. Number 24, do it right when no one's watching. The weld that would never be inspected, the bolt no foreman would ever check, he made it as sound as the one under the light. A machinist in Kenosha, Wisconsin, taught his son in 1975 that a man's real character is the quality of the work no one will ever see. The steel worker said a bad weld hidden inside a beam was a lie you told with your hands, and lies had a way of coming down years later on somebody's head.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. A guide for men like us who still believe a good name and good manners mean something. It's the lost gentleman's code, the old-fashioned manners American gentlemen once lived by, the kind that make you the man everyone respects, welcome in any room you walk into. But these ways are disappearing fast, and once they're gone for good. I've put together 2 books for you, plus a free bonus. Don't spend another year being the man people overlook. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link below. Go ahead, I'll wait.
Number 23, leave it better than you found it. The borrowed truck came back with a full tank. The rented hall was swept before he left. The job site was cleaner at quitting time than at dawn. A maintenance man in Toledo, Ohio, lived by it in 1971 and passed it whole to his son. It was a small daily arithmetic. Take less than you leave, and the world runs a little richer for your passing through it. The steelworker did it out of habit in a town that would not return the favor. Number 22, fix it yourself first. Before he paid a man to do it, he tried to learn to do it himself. The leaking pipe, the dead furnace, the car that would not turn over on a January morning. A plumber in Allentown, Pennsylvania, taught his son in 1973 that a man with his hands and a little patience owed the world fewer dollars and fewer favors. The steelworker kept a coffee can of sorted bolts and a workbench that raised 3 kids who never once called a repairman while he lived. Here is the difference, laid bare. A working man in 1970 owned a toolbox, a repair manual, and the simple assumption that a thing was worth fixing. When the toaster broke, he opened it. When the car died, he lifted the hood before he lifted the phone. He owed the world fewer dollars and fewer favors because he could do for himself, and that self-reliance was a quiet wealth no paycheck ever measured. We traded it for convenience. Today, a thing that breaks is a thing you throw away, and a skill you lack is a bill you pay, and we have arranged our whole lives so that we can do almost nothing for ourselves and must hire a stranger for nearly everything. We called it progress. The old man would have called it being owned. He was not richer than we are, but there was less of him for sale. Number 21. Cash on the barrelhead. If he could not pay for it, he did not buy it. Cash on the barrelhead, or he waited and saved and went without in the meantime. A tool and die man in Dearborn, Michigan, taught his son in 1972 that debt was a stranger you invited into your house who never left. The steelworker bought his one car used and paid it off from a coffee can of dollars, and the family did without a great many things, and never once felt poor for it. He slept easy because he owed no one, and a man who owes no one is a very hard man to push around. Number 20. Owe no man. The debt got paid first, before the beer, before the ball game, before anything he wanted for himself. A railroad brakeman in Altoona, Pennsylvania, paid every man he owed on payday before he crossed his own threshold. The steelworker would walk a borrowed $5 across town the night he got paid, rather than carry it one day longer. It was not about the money, it was about the weight. A man who owed nothing walked lighter and looked every other man level in the eye. Number 19. Take charity you can earn. He would not take a handout for a thing he was able to work for. A mill hand in Fall River, Massachusetts, raised his son in 1974 to earn his bread or go hungry a while longer, but never to take what he had not earned while he still had 2 good hands. When the mill closed, the steelworker took relief for exactly as long as it took to find any work at all, and not 1 week more, and counted every day on it a debt to be repaid by the man he raised. Number 18. Never let a neighbor go without. He would not take charity, and he would not let the family next door go without it either. The contradiction was the whole point. A welder in Hamtramck, Michigan, taught his son in 1973 that you carried your own load and quietly helped carry your neighbor's. When a man on the street got laid off, groceries appeared on his porch with no name attached, because charity received was a wound to a man's pride, but charity given in secret was a gift to his dignity. The steelworker left more anonymous sacks of food on more porches after Black Monday, when he had least to spare, than ever before in his life. That was the code, exactly. Number 17. Never pass a stranded man. A car on the shoulder, a hood up in the rain, and he pulled over every time for anyone, no matter the hour or the weather. A trucker in Terre Haute, Indiana, taught his son in 1975 that you never drove past a man in trouble on the road, because next time, the man on the shoulder might be you. The steelworker stopped for strangers on black winter nights his whole life, jumped their batteries, changed their tires, and never took $1 for it. Number 16. Stand up for the smaller kid. Don't start the fight, but if a bigger boy is picking on a smaller one, you end it. A foundryman in Birmingham, Alabama, taught his son in 1972 that a man's fists were for exactly one thing: standing between a bully and someone who could not defend himself. The steelworker taught his own boy to walk away from an insult and to wade straight into a beating aimed at someone weaker. To be strong and gentle was the whole aim. To be strong and cruel was the failure. Number 15. Never run down the job that feeds your kids. He might gripe at the kitchen table, but he never let his children hear him curse the work that fed them. An auto worker in Ypsilanti, Michigan, taught his son in 1974 that the job kept shoes on their feet, and a man who taught his kids to sneer at honest labor was raising them to be ashamed of him. The steelworker loved the mill, and it broke his heart, and even after it discarded him, he never spoke a bitter word about the work itself in front of his children. Number 14. Keep your worries under your own roof. The money that was short, the fear that kept him up, he held it inside the walls of his own house and did not spread it around the neighborhood or lay it on his kids. A boilermaker in Chester, Pennsylvania, taught his son in 1971 that a man carried his troubles quietly so they did not become everyone else's weather. This was never about hiding from his own family. It was about not making children carry a grown man's fear. Here is the part of his story we skipped. Black Monday did not end when the whistle went silent. In the months after the Campbell Works closed, the steelworker looked for mill work that no longer existed, one after another. The great mills of the Mahoning Valley went dark, and tens of thousands of men were chasing jobs that were vanishing faster than they could apply for them. He did not sit down. He pumped gas. He swept floors on a night shift. He drove a delivery truck across 3 counties for a fraction of what the mill had paid, and he took it without a word because a man works. His kids never saw him beaten. They saw him rise in the dark, same as always, and go do whatever honest thing there was to do. He had made steel that held up bridges, and now he was mopping a filling station floor. And he did that floor the way he had done the steel, right? And without complaint. The code did not bend when the world broke. It was the one thing he had left that no company could lay off. And the deepest rule in it, the one that held all the others up, is still coming. It is number 1. Number 13. Be at the supper table. Whatever the shift, whatever the overtime, he was at the supper table with his family every single night he possibly could be. A mailman in Muncie, Indiana, never once missed a family supper he could help in 1973. The table was where the day got sorted, where the kids learned to talk and to listen, where a family stayed a family instead of a set of strangers under one roof. The steelworker traded overtime he badly needed for suppers. He needed more because the money would be forgotten and the table would not. Number 12, Sunday, belonged to them. 6 days he gave to the mill. The 7th he gave to his family and his faith, and he guarded it like a man guards the last dry match. A pipe fitter and deacon in Wheeling, West Virginia, kept the Sabbath whole for his family in 1972. Church in the morning, a big meal at noon, the afternoon for the kids. No work, no errands, nothing that could wait until Monday. The steelworker believed a man who never stopped was telling his family they ranked below his labor. Number 11, take care of the working people. The waitress, the paperboy, the kid pumping gas, he tipped them well and treated them like people because he was one of them. A cab driver in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, taught his son in 1975 that a working man always took care of another working man, especially the ones the world overlooked. The steelworker tipped the diner waitress extra from a thin wallet and knew the paperboy's name and his father's name, too. He remembered exactly how it felt to be invisible in a uniform. Number 10. Give the credit, keep the blame. When the crew did well, he pushed the praise onto the younger men. When it went wrong, he stepped forward and took it. A shop steward in Lorain, Ohio, taught his son in 1973 to give credit in the open and take blame in the open, and never the reverse. The steelworker covered for a green kid's mistake more than once, and let the boy keep both his job and his pride. Leadership was never rank. It was who you protected. Number 9. Own it plain. When you're wrong. No excuse, no speech, no long story to soften it. He was wrong. He said so. He set it right. A carpenter in Grand Rapids, Michigan, apologized to his own son in 1972 with 4 plain words and no defense, and the boy never forgot how small the words were or how much they bought. The steelworker could say, "I was wrong, I'm sorry," without choking on it, which is rarer in a proud man than it sounds. Number 8. Finish what you start. He did not walk off a job half done, did not quit a thing because it got hard, did not leave the last quarter of anything for someone else to finish. A roofer in Reading, Pennsylvania, taught his son in 1974 that any man can start something. It is the finishing that separates the boys from the men. The steelworker finished every shift, every repair, every promise, all the way to the end, even when the end was miserable. Here is what nobody wants to say. We did not lose these codes by accident. We chose to forget them. Somewhere along the way, we decided that a man who lived by rules like these was rigid, repressed, a relic. That duty was a cage, and self-denial was a sickness, and the highest thing a person could do was express himself freely, whatever the cost to anyone else. So we let the codes die with the men who kept them. We buried the fathers, and we did not pick up what they had carried. And then we stood in the ruins of the towns they built, in a country that cannot seem to make anything anymore, wondering why nothing feels solid, why no one keeps their word, why a handshake means nothing and a promise means less. The mills were taken from those men, but the codes, those we threw away ourselves with both hands and called it freedom. The steel we could not save, the code we could have. We simply decided not to. Number 7, carry the fear so they don't have to. When the layoff was coming and the money was frightening, he carried the fear himself and let his children keep their peace. A night shift man at the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania mill did it in 1975, walking into the dark with dread in his chest and leaving it at the door when he came home. This was not pretending nothing was wrong. It was a father deciding that his own fear was his to hold, and that a child's only job was to be a child, not to shoulder a grown man's terror. The steelworker lay awake through the worst nights after Black Monday and rose looking steady so his kids could sleep. Number 6, never shame your own in public. He would take a man aside and skin him alive in private before he would ever correct his own wife or child in front of strangers. A barber in Canton, Ohio, taught his son in 1971 that you defend your family's dignity in public and settle your differences at home, never the reverse. The steelworker never once embarrassed his kids in front of their friends or his wife in front of the neighbors, because a family that could be shamed by its own head had no safe place left in the world. Number 5, your word to a child is the one you keep hardest. A promise to a grown man was iron. A promise to his own kid was welded steel. A city fireman in Peoria, Illinois, taught his son in 1973 that you keep your word to a child above all, because a child who learns his father's promises are empty learns that no one's can be trusted. If the steelworker said Saturday, it was Saturday, though he was bone-tired and the fish were not biting and the game got rained out. He went because he had said he would. Number 4. Do the right thing when it costs you. Anyone will do right when it is free. He did right when it cost him money, or standing, or the easy way out. A union man in Detroit, Michigan, taught his son in 1974 that the price tag is exactly how you know it was the right thing and not merely the convenient one. The steelworker returned the extra change a flustered clerk handed him by mistake, spoke up for a man everyone else was glad to see, blamed, and paid for it more than once without ever mentioning it at home. The price tag was how you knew it was real. Number 3. Provide and protect. You go without first. Before his own hunger, his own rest, his own wants, the people who depended on him were seen to. A dock worker in Cleveland, Ohio, came home wrecked in 1972 and checked the coal and the children's shoes before he sat down even once. This was the code the fathers held above nearly all others. The steelworker wore the same 2 coats for 15 years, so his kids would never wear a patched one to school. He ate last, ate least, and called himself full. To provide was not merely to earn. It was to put yourself dead last in your own house every day, and to feel that this was not sacrifice, but simply what the word father meant. Number 2. A man is only as good as his word. What he said he would do, he did, though it cost him, though the world turned, though no one would have blamed him for less. A farmer in Defiance, Ohio, kept a handshake promise in 1970 that cost him a whole season's profit because he had shaken on it. The steelworker's word was the one thing the mill closing could not touch, the one asset that survived Black Monday intact. Strip a working man of everything, and his word was still his, still good, still worth more than another man's signed contract. A promise is cheapest the moment it is made, and dearest the moment it is kept. He paid the dear price every time and never once counted it a loss. Number 1, he showed up. He showed up. That is the whole of it. For 22 years he showed up at the mill gate before the whistle, and when the mill was gone, he showed up at the gas station and the loading dock and every job that would have him, and he showed up at the supper table and the ball field and the church pew and every funeral in the parish, and he showed up in the hospital hallway when his own father was dying, and he never once in his life failed to be where he had said he would be. His own father, a man who came up in the Depression, had handed him the code in a single sentence. You show up, and you keep showing up, no matter what. Every other rule on this list was only this one wearing work clothes. The kept word was showing up. Providing was showing up. Standing between a bully and a smaller boy was showing up. When his son was grown and someone asked what had made his father a good man, he did not mention the steel or the codes or Black Monday. He said, "My dad was always there." That is the thing the world chose to forget. The town is gone. The mill is a field of weeds, but a man who simply shows up every day for the people who need him. That outlasts steel. Not the handshake, not the hat. This. None of these 30 codes required money or education or a single soft word. They required a working man who had decided that how he lived was a thing he owed his children, and who taught them not with lectures but with the daily evidence of his own two hands. The generation that came up in the mills and the mines and the factories understood something we have spent 50 years unlearning, that a man is built, not born, and that he is built out of small, hard rules kept over and over until keeping them is simply who he is. We watched their world get taken from them, the mills shuttered, the towns hollowed, the work shipped off, and that was done to them, and it was a crime. But the codes were not taken from them. Those we set down ourselves, deciding they were old-fashioned, deciding we were too free to be bound by them. The steel is not coming back. The code could, in any man willing to bend down and pick it up. He is still there in the memory of it. A tired man in a cooling mill town, rising in the dark, showing up, keeping his word, going without, standing between the weak and the world, waiting for a son or a daughter, willing to live the way he lived and mean it.